Yo, what's up guys? Ethan here, back with another video. In today's episode, we're getting straight into more 2020 season predictions. As you can tell, today we're going to be talking about the Oklahoma State Cowboys and how I think they will do this season. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Now, let's get straight into the video. Now, this Oklahoma State team is going to be great this year, in my opinion. I know in yesterday's video, the JT Daniels transferring to Georgia video, if you haven't watched that, go check it out. But if you haven't watched that video, I didn't like the move. And I also said today's video would be the top 5 under the radar players. I'm not doing that video because I just didn't have time to make the graphics. I will have it later. But that video will come out tomorrow. And to replace that video, we have Oklahoma State. Now, this Oklahoma State team, like I said, I think it's going to be good this year. You have 3 superstars on your team. Heisman candidate probably. And the top 2, maybe top 3 running back in the entire nation, Chuba Hubbard. That's who's on your screen right now, by the way. You have one of the top safeties in the league, and Colby Harvey-O'Peel. And you have a top 15 wide receiver in the nation, and Tylan Wallace, as he decided to return for his senior season. So this Oklahoma State team, I personally think, is going to be really good this year. And let's get straight into what I think their record is going to be. So, if you are new to the channel and you don't know how these predictions work, we go with who I think is going to be a guaranteed win, and then we go from top to bottom on wins and losses. So, the only guaranteed win I have on this schedule right here is the 3rd game of the year, home versus Western Illinois. It's pretty obvious why. So, the first game of the season, you're home versus Oregon State, as this is the 2nd game of a home-and-home series, as last year went to Oregon State. And personally, I think you win this game. Now, I do think Oregon State is going to be a really good team last year. You have Hamilcar Rashed, one of probably the most underrated linebacker in the league. And you have Jermar Jefferson, running back. He is really good too. You have 2 great players. And I personally think Oregon State is the poor man's version of Oklahoma State. You always lose to the top dog. For Oregon, it's Oregon State. For Oklahoma State, it's Oklahoma. But they're still going to be good. I think Oregon State's going to make a bowl game this year. I really like that team. But you lose your first game as Oklahoma State wins at home. Next week, you're home versus your rivals, Tulsa. I'm not high on Tulsa this year. You get a win here. Your next game is the guaranteed win that we already talked about, and you have your first road game. My bad. I think you lose at TCU. I'll be honest. It's your first road game, really great atmosphere at TCU. TCU is going to have a lot of things riding for them this year, and I think you lose at TCU. You start off a little bumpy on the road, and this is probably your toughest competition yet. You take an L early in the year. Next game, you're home versus Iowa. My bad. You could win at TCU. That is a maybe W, but I think TCU wins. Next game, you're home versus Iowa State, and this is one of your tougher games on the schedule this season. And you just lost at TCU. You're going to come back and win this one. I do think you're going to lose this game. Iowa State is going to be a really good team this year. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not sure how they're going to do with Brock Purdy. You did lose a little bit of your defense, but I think you win home versus Iowa State. Now, you could lose this game, but I think you would win. Next game, you're at Kansas, and Kansas is really bad at football, let's just say that. And you are going to win this game. Not a maybe, plain out victory. Here is probably the big game on your schedule this year. At Oklahoma. Your rivals. Out of like 100 matchups, you only won 17. It's not good. But I personally think you win this year. If you watch my Oklahoma video, my last one, I think Oklahoma State wins this year. I personally think they are a better team this year. I'm not high on Oklahoma this year, but I personally think Oklahoma State wins this game. Now, this could be it's been like that for the past few years now. It's also at Lincoln, but I think Oklahoma State wins this game. Next game, you're home versus Texas Tech. After a great victory, you win another one. You're on a big roll, defeating pretty tough competition recently. And then you're at Baylor, and you slip up again on the road. I think Baylor wins this game. Now, I personally think this is either going to be a shootout or a close game. I think Baylor pulls off the upset technically in this game. It's in Waco. If Oklahoma State, I think this matchup would be whoever was the home team would win. If it's at Oklahoma State and Stillwater, they win. But since it's at Waco, I think Baylor wins this one. Now, I do think Oklahoma State is the better team in this matchup, and this could easily be a trap game, and it is a trap game because you lost. But Oklahoma State is the better team. They can win this game, but I think you slip up in a close matchup at the end of the year. Next, after a terrible loss at Baylor, you go back home, and you're home versus West Virginia. West Virginia, I do think they will be a little bit improved this year, but it's not going to defeat Oklahoma State. Now, last year, if I'm not mistaken, this game was close, and they almost upset them, but Oklahoma State is a better team this year. I'm not going to say a maybe. I could understand if you give a maybe out here, but I do think it's just going to be a plain-out victory for Oklahoma State. Now, you're at Kansas State. Oklahoma's slipped up at Kansas State last year, as that was a trap game. But for Oklahoma State, I think you win this matchup. I do think Kansas State did lose a little bit of talent. I do think Oklahoma State is the better team. But since it's at a trap game and it's on the road, don't be surprised if Kansas State pulls off the upset like they did last year home versus Oklahoma. So, I do think Oklahoma State wins this game because they are the better team. I would not be shocked if Kansas State won this game, though. And the final game of the year, you're home versus Texas. This is just like the Baylor thing. I think if whoever's the home team wins this matchup, I think Oklahoma State wins a really tight game for your last game of the year. This is a Friday night, too. Oklahoma State wins a close one versus Texas. If it was at Austin, I think Texas would win a close one. But since Oklahoma State is home, they win. This could be an L. I can understand why any person would say Texas would win this one. I personally think Oklahoma State's better, but I can understand to some extent on why people would say Texas is better than Oklahoma State. But I think Oklahoma State wins this game. So, in summary, you look at this schedule, I think Oklahoma State goes 10-2 this season, with your only losses at TCU and at Baylor. Now, you do win your top competition. You win versus Texas. You win at Oklahoma. Maybe even you can consider home versus Oregon State to be a great victory if they end up being good. But I do think Oklahoma State goes 10-2. And looking ahead, Texas is not going to be 10-2. Or 11-1 or 12-0. That's a little bit of spoiler for a week or two to come. But Oklahoma State, as you saw with the Oklahoma, they also have the same record. So even though they may not win the conference championship, for the regular season, Oklahoma State is the champions of the Big 12. Just saying. So I do understand if you say, okay, you lose at Oklahoma, you can lose at home versus Texas. If you don't lose at TCU or at Baylor, you either lose home versus Oregon State early, at Oklahoma, at Kansas State, or at Texas. Those are the top games I can understand. Also home versus Iowa State. So in the comment section below, what do you think Oklahoma State's record would be, and who do you think they'll lose to? So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, and like always, have a good day. Peace out.